Breaking news earlier this week, the Justice Department filed a new brief in the ongoing federal case against Venezuelan-born voting machine company Smartmatic. The filing laid out new allegations of bribery in Smartmatic's home country. In the new filing, the prosecutors in the Southern District detail how Roger Piñate, a Smartmatic executive indicted in a bribery scheme related to the Philippines, also allegedly bribed the top election official in Venezuela at the time with an upper middle class home complete with pool, as you see from the accompanying pictures in the filing. Here's how the feds described the alleged scheme, saying, quote, in exchange for Lucina Ramirez's assistance with Company One, that's Smartmatic's, status as an election services provider in Venezuela going forward, defendant Piñate bribed Lucina Ramirez with the title and use of a residence in Caracas. The residence was an upper middle class home with a pool, which defendant Piñate owned and controlled through a foreign corporation from approximately April 2019 through July 2019. Defendant Piñate enlisted the aid of others, including the same individual one named in the indictment, to give control of the residence to Lucina Ramirez in text communications. Defendant Piñate and others discussed giving the residence to Lucina Ramirez by transferring its title to a third party to conceal the source of nature of the transfer. Ultimately, Lucina Ramirez took control of the residence, and the government intends to prove and argue that this amounted to a bribe payment for her assistance on election-related business while she was employed at C&E. As our friend Patrick Byrne noted on X, gosh, apparently Smartmatic is in bed with Venezuela after all, and Mr. Patrick Byrne joins us now for a deeper dive into this developing story. Patrick, as always, it's wonderful to see you, and we've got some good news in the way of the progression of the Smartmatic case, yes?
It is a step forward. It's a good step forward, but believe me, we are still at the stage of the mint at the door, in terms of what's going to be exposed. Yes, Venezuela. I mean, yes, Smartmatic bribed the Philippines. Yes, they bribed a Venezuelan election official. It's the parking tickets. Wait till we get to the first-degree murders they've been committing. But we do have them. They do. The DOJ has them on the parking tickets. You want me to continue? I'm sorry. I can continue. I'm trying not to run on this time like I normally do. Here's the thing to know. Why this is such a small event is the Smartmatic is a kind of the Venezuelan regime. First thing was the Venezuelan regime and the Venezuelan mafia are the same thing. The cartel of Venezuela is the government. That's socialism. But it's called the cartel of the generals. The cartel of the generalissimos. The Venezuelan regime is the cartel. They did that so they could steal the biggest oil reserves in the world, and they've stolen $4 trillion. And to do that, you need to steal the elections as well. So they've stolen the elections for 25 years. To do that, they created a computerized system that they could sell to the peasants as being, we got computerized elections. They must be fast and secure now. It's actually just the opposite. And having done that and gotten away with it, they then commercialized their election stealing system as a company called Smartmatic. They sent 3 engineers to Boca Raton, Florida, not far from where I am now. In 2001, they created a Delaware company called Smartmatic. It's all Venezuela. It's a front for the Venezuelan mafia, is what I'm saying. So yeah, is it a surprise that these kids? Roger Piñate is a Venezuelan who worked for the cartel, and he gave somebody back in the cartel a house so they would keep selecting Smartmatic. This is among cartel members. This is like, handing somebody a bottle of beer at the door or something. It's nothing. But that's what they're getting hit for now. What they're going to be hit for is they did all these favors, not just to get the business of being the machineries that you, Mr. Government official, are going to use in your company. They did all this, and in addition, rigged the elections. And I believe you're going to see the DOJ alleging that once that's going to be a big thing when the DOJ comes out officially and says, yes, these elections are rigged, because then people are going to say, well, where does it stop? But yeah, eventually these are going to go from Smartmatic bribe these officials. Look, I know the people who gave them this information. I'm on first name basis with the people who gave this proof to the government. And there's a lot more proof coming that's not just Smartmatic's paying bribe, but that they've been rigging elections for 20 years.
This scheme, okay, let's just get back to Venezuela, because I think what you said is really important. And I want to hone in on this, because this bribery scheme with the head of CNE at the time, and just to clarify, she's dead now, right? Ramirez is no longer with us. She passed in 2023.
Correct.
It sounds like.
That's what I recall. I'm not up on my Venezuelan.
They have tried to, the media and Democrats have tried to downplay in recent years, not in the past. Democrats in the past were very concerned about Smartmatic, right, and its ties to the Venezuelan government, like Carolyn Maloney of Representative Carolyn Maloney in 2006, who expressed concerns about this technology. But this, with the feds putting this in the filing that they bribed the Venezuelan official, that solidifies the ties between Smartmatic and the Venezuelan government. Whereas some have tried to suggest that they didn't operate with them. And particularly, let's lay the groundwork here too. In 2017, there was an election that was obviously rigged to keep Maduro in place, right? The numbers were off, and so then Venezuela stopped operating Smartmatic stopped operating in Venezuela essentially to make it seem like they were on the up and up, right? But then they bribed this official to get back into the country. Is that what happened?
Well, there's a new company, a new election management system company. It's got a weird name. It's in South America, and it's got a very, it's just another front for the smart equipment. You know, all the machinery in the world, when you buy a laptop computer, if it's Dell or Lenovo or HP, inside is Microsoft operating system. So all the machinery that you buy in the world, I know, or smart. On the inside, they all have something called the Smartmatic election system. And they've renamed it general other companies, I think, are election management system. And Dominion called it Dominion Democracy Suite. It's all just white label on the operating system, Smartmatic, which is to say Venezuelan mafia. So they've always had that connection. The connections that we're getting at here are just they've been paying some bribes and doing some favors, but this is chopped chicken liver compared to what is underneath it and what the DOJ now knows is underneath it. I know for a fact the DOJ has all the proof that of what's underneath this is that they've been doing this for, let me give you a quick example. In the Philippines, in 2010 and 2016, they rigged the election. They would have taken $150 million for their machines. If the Philippines had paid them $150 million, they said they would run the election. But instead, they got $200 million for the Philippines. They got extra $50 million. $20 million they kicked back to the guy running Filipino Election Commission, and $30 million they kept. Now, I know the people who did that, they have brought people
Patrick,
to the Department of Justice.
Your signal is getting really bad. So I do want to know, while we're talking about the Philippines, and then we'll get a moment to this will buy us a moment to maybe get your signal a little bit better. The president just sat down with the leader of the Philippines a couple of weeks ago, where he made this interesting comment about elections that didn't get a lot of attention, maybe because people don't know what you and I know. But knowing what you and I know, and in relation to this Smartmatic, case against Smartmatic in the Southern District of Florida, I thought it was very telling. Let's take a listen to that.
They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming.
But there was one where he looks at the Filipino president and he says, you know something about dirty elections, essentially. You know something about those in those dirty countries. And that was like, wow to me.
Yeah, Trump's a funny guy. I've only come to realize later how funny he is. He's really funny. He's sitting next to a man. When he did that, you should find that clip and play it. He's sitting next to a man who he knows for a fact that guy's elections were rigged. And he's just bringing this up like innocently. Gosh, there are rigged elections all over the place. Look at that Filipino president's election. His face freezes. He's thinking, is this guy Trump talking about me? Does he know about me? Yes, Mr. President Marcos in the Philippines. He does know about you. He knows your election was rigged. He knows 2016. He knows 2010. They've got all the proof.
They do have all the proof. Look, Patrick, I think you're traveling. The signal is just not great, unfortunately. So I think we're going to have to cut it short there. We'll have to have you back. We'll have to have Patrick back when he's not traveling, which is a hard moment to find because the man is always on the road to talk more in depth about this Smartmatic filing, because it's very telling. And as Patrick has had to say just now, just to tell you where this is going, the DOJ is building a case, okay? There is a report floating around that details all of this. Patrick just told you that. General Mike Flynn has told you that. They both have said that the president is well aware, that the DOJ is well aware of what is going on. So this recent filing related to the bribery allegations in Venezuela is just one more part of this. Of course, that case is in the Southern District of Florida. The trial is set to take place on October 1st. But there's another piece of this laying the groundwork to explain how these voting machine companies work, to show how corruption and bribery are embedded in the operations of especially Smartmatic, right? But what you're going to see in the coming weeks, based on what Patrick and I both know, is you're going to see how Smartmatic relates to other voting machine companies and much more evidence. And as President Trump, we'll find that soundbite and play it on another day, but the soundbite of President Trump pointedly saying to the Philippine president that he knows something about dirty elections was very telling. Now, we are waiting to reveal more once we see what the administration does, and we'll have more on that developing story for you soon. And we'll also have Mr. Patrick Byrne back very soon because there's so much to explain here. I want to share, as I often do, that I do have a very long explainer thread with well over 100 tweets at this point on my X account at Emerald Robinson, detailing, documenting back all the way to 2020, bringing us forward to what we will find out about the most recent months, so bringing us up to date. So go to my Twitter X at Emerald Robinson. Look at that tweet thread that is pinned at the top of my account if you want to get caught up on this election news, because you're going to want to be well read in for what is happening next. You've heard General Mike Flynn, who is actually on Chrissy Lee's show, DC Dispatch, just a little bit later today, dropping hints every appearance that he's been in. You've heard Tulsi Gabbard out on recent shows, dropping lots of hints, saying that she has lots of evidence, lots of documents that are forthcoming as it relates to our elections. With that, we'll continue the story and continue to cover the story. But again, you can go see that on my X to get all the way caught up to speed. Up next, remember yesterday we talked with Karen Kingston about that unconstitutional law its way through California's legislature that would basically allow for sanctioned kidnapping by the state of children, erases parental rights and authority. It must not be allowed to be put into place. We'll talk with an attorney who's working against AB 495 in California after this commercial break.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
California Democrats are coming for your kids with 3 dangerous new policies. First, Assembly Bill 495 lets anyone claim guardianship over your child, which is a dream come true for traffickers and kidnappers. Second, Assembly Bill 84 defunds charter schools by over $1 billion to force kids into state-run schools. Finally, the Democrat superintendent of schools has released a memo saying that California will not prevent biological boys from competing in girls' sports, contrary to federal rules. The Trump administration is suing the state of California over its unfair sports policies. We're hoping to restore fairness very soon.
As we reported to you yesterday, California's pending legislation, Bill 495, is coming for your kids, quite literally. According to the California State Legislature, the bill will, quote, expand the type of person who is authorized to execute a caregiver's authorization affidavit to include a non-relative extended family member as defined, and grant them the same rights to authorize school-related medical care as defined for the minor that are given to guardians as specified. By expanding who is authorized to sign a caregiver's authorization affidavit for these purposes under penalty of perjury, this bill would expand the crime of perjury, thereby imposing a state-mandated local program. As this bill works its way through the corrupt California legislative process, Governor Newsom insists it's all, of course, to protect California's large population of illegal immigrants. Even if true, and we're not saying it is, he's willing to sacrifice the parental rights and the well-being of children who are real American citizens in the name of California's Democrats' army of borderline slaves imported from nearby Mexico. Here's Karen Kingston yesterday laying it out for us. Listen.
Immigrant families in case they are separated due to federal immigration laws. And the truth is, when you read the language of the bill, this applies to all children. Anyone can walk in. They don't need to show a driver's license. They can give them a bogus social security, bogus medical number, a bogus name, a bogus address, and they don't have to have a parent's signature. So they're overriding all of the infrastructure and laws and help and support that's in place right now for immigration, and it's just legalizing child kidnapping.
We're now joined by one of the California attorneys who's fighting this travesty. Her name is Nicole Pearson, and she joins us now. Nicole, I can't fathom a more egregious bill going through the state legislature than one that gives authority and essentially guardianship to your child to someone that's not related, even though you're right there being a parent. I can't believe that's where we are.
Well, if you've been following California politics for a while, then you might actually be able to believe it. We've been sounding the alarm and saying this day would come, and it's finally here.
All right, let's talk about this bill in the legislative process. There are lots of problems with it, but it is California, as you noted. What is the likelihood of it actually passing the legislature and being signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom?
Well, the bill is set to be heard on Monday, August 18th in front of the Senate Appropriations Committee. Well, they'll be talking about the fiscal or financial impact of the bill on Californians. It's very difficult to kill these types of controversial bills in a policy committee. So we are going to show up in full force on that Monday. We will voice our opposition. We will testify against the bill. And we hope that the policy members will be convinced by our legislative efforts beforehand to vote no, or at the very least abstain on the bill. But if not, it will head to the Senate floor. If anybody has been watching, again, California politics, they know that we are full of extremist senators, Democratic senators. So we are working very hard to kill the bill before it gets to the governor's desk, but we are hopeful that the governor, who has presidential goals or aspirations, could kill the bill. It is a human trafficking and specifically a child sex trafficking bill, and he has intervened in similar or related bills, SB 14 and SB 1414 of Senator Shannon Groves. So we are hoping, if he's wise about politics and his political future and actually helping the victims of child sex trafficking, that he will help kill this bill.
That's an excellent point. You can't appeal to reason with Gavin Newsom, can you? But you perhaps could appeal to his political future and ambitions.
Absolutely, that's the goal. We're always working every angle that we can because we are run by Democratic extremists who are after our children.
So let me ask you, what are you asking for parents in California, or what kind of response has there been? Has there been enough groundswell of outrage from parents, just parents in California speaking out about this bill? Or I would suspect a lot of people don't even know this is passing through the legislature, right?
Well, actually, there has been a groundswell. It got picked up, as I know, goes viral on the internet, on Instagram, and we're blessed to have Pastor Jack Hibbs sounding the alarm on this bill. So it has gone viral nationally, as it should, because every child in this country is at risk if AB 495 passes, because California is a sanctuary state. So any child can be brought to the state under the guise of receiving gender affirming or sexual and reproductive health care. And if they are brought here by a kidnapper, by their father or mother, their spouse, the ex-spouse who doesn't have legal custody of the child, or abusive boyfriend who brings them here and says the child is here to get those types of health care, California Governor Newsom has declared war on the Constitution, the lawful orders of other states, and said they will not cooperate with other states' laws or warrants or subpoenas. And so that any child will be subjected to AB 495. So everybody's paying attention now. People are rising up. They are calling the senators and they are voicing their opposition to 495. We're very grateful for the attention this bill deserves and is receiving.
So let me ask you, if I think is such a concern about kidnapping here, right? Because you could also sort of have any person. We've seen this with, let's look at the problem that DHS is facing right now, trying to recover children that came across the southern border, right? They were given to sponsors who the Biden regime said were legitimate sponsors, but we suspected, and now we have confirmed, that was not the case. In fact, transnational gangs posed as sponsors and trafficked these children. People who had nothing to do with these children got them, and now they're trying to find them. I could suspect that this would open the door to similar situations in California.
Absolutely. And I actually pointed to that example in my testimony in opposition of the bill on July 7th in front of the Senate Human Services Committee. We already know how this is going to play out. The federal government already ran the failed, horrible test experiment with hundreds of thousands of children, like unaccompanied minors at the border, like you just mentioned, in a desperate attempt to quickly place those children because they were facing a surge of unaccompanied minors at the border. They reduced vetting and security procedures, no background checks, fingerprinting, no home visits, etc. As a result, to date, as of May 2025, they have not been able to track over 600,000 children. It's not the 325,000 number that they testified to in Congress a couple of months back. It's actually over 600,000. Lord only knows where those children are and what is happening to them. And now California wants to do something, but even worse.
This is absolutely egregious. Let's talk about the agenda here, because there's no, again, when we're talking reason, there's no rationale or reason, but there also isn't naivete, right? I mean, these Democrats and Gavin Newsom know exactly what they're doing. So what is the true agenda? What's the true motivation here, Nicole?
Well, we'll just talk about the bill. I'll break it out for you because there are various agendas, different layers to this. So Celeste
Okay.
Rodriguez, the Assemblywoman who is the author of this bill, is disguising this bill, as a bill to protect the children of undocumented immigrants in the event their parents, both parents, are ripped from their homes in the middle of the night and the children are left alone. We already have robust, albeit imperfect systems, dependency, foster care, child protective services, and systems, legal proceedings to take the children in, place them immediately with the next of kin, and then monitor and track them to ensure that they are with a family member and are being taken care of. And then more importantly, like you mentioned at the top of the hour, that they are reunited with their parents and their parents' wishes are respected. We already have systems in place, so there's no reason for this bill whatsoever. The agenda behind the bill is, if you're religious, it's demonic. To me, it is child sacrifice. We are sacrificing these children to Moloch. If you are political, this is a classic Marxist, fascist takedown of the nuclear family, removing the children from the home, turning the children from their parents. And then if you're just looking at politics and finance, we're going to turn these children into lifelong medical patients, either because we're going to start to transition them, confuse them through therapies and drugs, administering drugs that, again, their parents are not consenting to, because these creepy strangers, adults, are brainwashing them, again, manipulating them, alienating them from their parents, and doing Lord knows what, giving them abortions, puberty blockers, hormones. We have no idea what will happen to these children, but basically all of the organizations, all of the groups who are controlling our lives right now are going to benefit from AB 495 if it does become law.
This is terrifying, Nicole. As a parent in a different state who could have a Governor Newsom-esque governor next year, I'm in the state of Virginia. We're going to start covering that more in depth in September, but there is a very, concerning situation here as far as the gubernatorial race. As a parent looking at California and knowing that often the way that California goes, many other blue states go, I could assume being a blue state, I find this absolutely terrifying. So for the parents that's watching that aren't in California, it's not just about California. This is huge. Everyone must fight it, because you might find yourself in a similar situation if your state flips. Maybe you're not in a blue state, maybe you're in a kind of purple, like Virginia. This could be you. Nicole, what are you asking people to do?
People need to be calling the senators who are on the Appropriations Committee, who will be hearing the bill on August 18th, telling them to vote no, at the very least abstain on the bill, and share your stories and also share your concerns. You do not need to be a constituent. If you live in California, you do not need to be a constituent of these committee members. They are voting on a bill that will affect every single child in the state. If it does pass the committee hearing, Pastor Jack Hibbs and Real Impact USA are hosting a rally on August 19th, the next day, and that will also turn into a lobbying day where they'll teach you how to lobby and advocate for yourselves with our representatives at the Capitol. That'll be an incredibly powerful day for this bill and any other bill that makes it through and heads towards the Senate floor. And then everybody needs to be calling the senators. There are not that many senators in California, and letting them know, again, vote no, or at the very least abstain on the bill. They can give Celeste Rodriguez cover. She's a newbie legislator. Just tell her, hey, you know what? We think there are systems that are currently in place that already protect children, all children, especially the children of undocumented immigrants. We don't believe expanding and broadening this bill is going to help the problems that currently exist with our system. We should be working together to close those loopholes. Let's work it together. Let's make this a 2-year bill. Let's make it more strict. Let's make these policies more powerful and robust to protect these children and ensure that they're reunited with their parents once that parents is capacitated again or released from custody and able to take care of their children. So we just need to be giving what's called cover to these legislators to speak up against this bill. We don't need a no vote. We need abstentions, and we need them to know that we oppose this bill and are watching them and how they vote on this bill now. And the very last thing I forgot to mention, call Gavin Newsom's office right away. Start putting pressure on Gavin right away. Email him, submit comments online, let him know you're watching. If he cares about children, vulnerable children, child sex trafficked children, that he needs to step in, intervene, tell Celeste this is not the bill. Let's work on something that's better for these children, and let's pull the bill completely.
You heard Nicole. It's not just about California either. Thank you so much, Nicole. We're going to keep our eye on this. Pastor Jack Hibbs has been on the show before. We will be following that rally. We'll probably talk to Pastor Jack as well. Some good people in the fight, so that's encouraging, but it'll take all of us. Thank you so much, Nicole. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on in the fall to see how that goes. All right, up next, President Donald Trump busy at the White House, where there is apparently a forthcoming announcement on a new peace deal. We'll have more on that with Kira Castronova after this break.
Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids, but not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer.
Fashion, it would seem we are on the brink of yet another major peace deal being crafted by the Trump team to end the ongoing brutal Azerbaijan-Armenia war. That's according to our sources in the White House. In keeping with Trump's excellent speech in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia a few months back, the Trump doctrine is at play in this horrific conflict that has seen so much bloodshed, especially of our Christian brothers and sisters in Armenia at the hands of Muslim Azerbaijan, which you must note has been backed by Israel, Turkey, and sadly, even the United States. The White House plans for commerce to Trump conflict. That's because there's a new economic corridor being crafted called the Zangezur Corridor that seeks to link Azerbaijan's vast energy sources with the wider Middle East and Europe, but cutting off Iran. Now here's our friend, geopolitical consultant and former intelligence officer, Lee Slusher, explaining such things.
Really is, in addition to all of the dynamics that are specific to the region, that there is this broader geopolitical significance. How do we get these goods from the producers in the East all the way out into Europe and beyond? And so here, the Zangezur Corridor is a portion of that. Of course, we have to go back to 2020, to the Nagorno-Karabakh War. For decades leading up to that war, the Armenians, both in Armenia and the ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, had military overmatch. They very confidently controlled that terrain, and they could really put a stop to the ambitions of the Azeris. But with Turkey's help in that war and using a lot of lessons that Turkey refined both in Syria and in Libya, particularly with drone operations, Azerbaijan was able to flip that on its head.
And we'll have more on that tomorrow with in-depth coverage with Todd Wood, who just returned from Armenia. However, happening today are other important administration meetings. An HHS official confirmed to LindellTV that indeed the discussions are taking place today that President Trump mentioned yesterday related to Kennedy. Secretary Kennedy ending BARDA funding of mRNA technology. Now here's Trump in the Oval just yesterday.
mRNA vaccines that are the gold standard. Right. Now your health secretary is pulling back all the funding for research. He's saying that the risks outweigh the benefits,
research on what?
into mRNA vaccines.
Well, we're going to look at that. We're talking about it, and they're doing a very good job. And, you know, that is a pass. With Operation Warp Speed was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, considered one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. The efficiency, the way it was done, the distribution, everything about it has been amazing. But, you know, that was now a long time ago, and we're on to other things. But we are speaking about it. We have meetings about it in tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and we'll determine. We're looking for other answers to other.
That was President answering a question related to this announcement from earlier in the week from his HHS secretary.
Over the past few weeks, BARDA reviewed 22 mRNA vaccine development investments and began canceling them.
We're now joined by the White House correspondent for LindellTV, our very own Kara Castronova, for more on this. Kara, it is confirmed that these meetings or these talks were supposed to happen today related to BARDA and HHS in the noon hour. We haven't gotten any more word on them, but have we gotten a sense for what President Trump meant yesterday? It sounded as if perhaps they could reverse perhaps Kennedy's actions related to BARDA and the mRNA funding. It was a bit ambiguous. It also seemed that perhaps they're just looking, you know, they're going to discuss other treatments or other advancements. Do you have any clarity? It's okay if you don't, because I'm just throwing this at you, but I'm just curious, have you heard anything else?
I haven't. I'm waiting just like everybody else. It's always concerning when President Trump mentions Operation Warp Speed in a positive light. But, you know, his stance has morphed, I think, through the years when it comes to these mRNA shots. So hopefully he won't be reversing anything that Secretary Kennedy is doing. He entrusted him as the head of HHS. So that's the hope, I think, for a lot of people. But I haven't really heard anything about that as of yet. But I will keep you posted, Emerald, if I do.
Yeah, I know this is also an issue that's very near and dear to your heart. You covered it a lot over the last couple years, longer. I will say what I have heard in the last hour, and that there are, how do I put it? There are potential shakeups. That's what we say, right? When there could be people leaving the administration, there might be potential shakeups. Maybe not names that are super familiar to our audience, but potential shakeups at the Health and Human Services Department related to this week's events. So we shall see, and we will also cover that more in depth tomorrow. In other news, the president has also been pretty vocal about the debanking issue. We've also heard that there is an executive order that is forthcoming. There is a draft of an executive order that was released by Semaphore.com. And looking at it, it looks like it could be the executive order draft. And if so, in this particular executive order, what's particularly, I think, encouraging about it, President Trump sounds very strong on the issue, is that action on these banks that debank people like President Trump, Melania, Dr. John Eastman, who detailed his experience with Bank of America and USAA right here on this show, shared the letters he was sent when they debanked him, talked about the phone calls he got or the phone calls he had. President Trump's pretty strong on this issue. And if this executive order is the final draft, it would include retroactive action against banks that debank people like Eastman and the Trumps, correct?
Right. And, you know, a lot of other people, it, you know, wasn't really reported on in mainstream media. But as you know, Emerald, a lot of J6ers were debanked. People, just regular people, plumbers, carpenters, and others that were Trump supporters. They, you know, they don't get the reporting done for them. But I spoke to them through the years. A lot of people were debanked or even removed from PayPal and other payment processors. So I'm hoping that, you know, this executive order eventually, or another executive order eventually includes things like PayPal and Venmo, where a lot of J6ers were removed from. So it's about President Trump and everybody that you spoke about, but really it's just about the American people. A lot of people were debanked. So yes, like as you said, President Trump is preparing this executive order, and it will retroactively penalize banks that were engaging in politically motivated debanking. And, you know, it's been reported now by the New York Post that Biden officials were involved, which is obviously a flagrant abuse of power. There could be indictments. I do believe that, if these individuals are hopefully identified, maybe through Freedom of Information Act requests, maybe people will investigate this more at the DOJ. This is obviously a flagrant violation of the First Amendment. It was done to chill free speech, due process, and all of these other constitutional rights that obviously make America different than other countries like communist China, where this sort of thing happens. So this is really, it's about equal protection. It's about First Amendment rights. And, I think that Democrats and Republicans both should be really applauding this executive order, because the power pendulum does swing. I always said that when I founded Citizens Against Political Persecution. Any type of rogue administration like the Bidens could come in and really use this against the American population. And rhinos can come in as well years from now and, debank people that they don't agree with, or debank, who knows, a Democrat. So this is important, I really think, for this to become law eventually.
I think it's very important. I think this is a very important executive order, but I think this pendulum never swings so hard the other way that the Democrats actually get hit. But it is the point that we often use when we're talking about why we have to conduct certain actions in a Republican-held administration, and it is important. I'm glad President Trump is addressing this, because our own Mike Lindell has been affected by this issue. So there's a lot of people, and average Americans. I mean, people who aren't out there in the media, not average, but not out in the media. I've talked to people who have seen, they feel like they've been targeted because they're very openly conservative on social media. So we'll continue to follow this as it develops. Real quick before we let you go, Kara, you are headed to a special event today at the White House in the East Room, where the president is set to make remarks about recipients of the Purple Heart, and many of them will be in that room. Yes. Now, you have a very personal story about the Purple Heart, so today will mean a lot to you, I suspect.
It will, and I'm looking forward to being in that event. My dad was a Purple Heart recipient. He's buried at Arlington Cemetery, just right here outside of Washington, D.C. So I'm going to really look forward to hearing President Trump's remarks on a personal level, and just researching Purple Heart Day today and looking more into what it means, and the history of the Purple Heart, which started with George Washington. He was the one who originated it, and then 200 years, I guess, after they really started creating the actual Purple Heart as it exists today, in the form of the heart with the medal, and giving it to hundreds of thousands, I believe, soldiers who have been injured in wars. And like you mentioned, there will be many people in that room today that are recipients or that are family members of recipients, and just really honoring their contributions to this country and what they did to make America free. So that is on the schedule for today at 4 o'clock, and I will be there, and I will report back to you on that later or tomorrow.
Kara, I know your father would be extremely proud of you. I know he is, looking down from heaven. Just so proud of you. And I hope you enjoy the event today. I'll be watching. I'll probably have to have it with a box of tissues. I'm very sentimental. I love that. And I've heard President Trump talk so much about our warriors, right? And they're really important to him. People don't even know how important they are to him. I've heard him say that's why he lays awake. Obviously he doesn't sleep much anyway, but at night thinking about is the wounded warriors, particularly that he would see and interact with at Walter Reed. Kara Kachanova. So we will bring some coverage from that event at the White House later today. So stay tuned. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you so much, Emerald. Have a good show.
In other recent remarks, President Donald Trump suggested that he could federalize the District of Columbia in order to clean it up. The president's suggestion came on the heels of an attack on a former DOJ staffer known famously as Big Balls. Allison Steinberg has the story in today's Swamp Watch.
Well, this weekend, Washington, D.C. proved yet again that it has lost control. A young federal staffer known online as Big Balls, a protege of Elon Musk and former member of the DOJ task force, was brutally assaulted in a carjacking by a group of teens just steps away from his car in the heart of our nation's capital. Police say the suspects were just 15 years old. President Trump's response was swift and unapologetic. Quote, "If D.C. doesn't get its act together," Trump wrote, We will have no choice but to take federal control of the city. And because of the increase in crime among teenagers, Trump also says the law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. Elon Musk tweeted in agreement with the president, saying it's time to federalize D.C. And they're absolutely right. The capital city, run by far-left Democrats for decades, has become a lawless hellscape. Congress intern Eric Tarpinian was killed in a crossfire back in June. Now, a Doge staffer nearly loses his life. Who's next? Now, in response to Trump and Elon, Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch also noted a contributing factor to the juvenile crime crisis in D.C. is that the courts rely on GPS monitoring to police criminal juveniles. The box, as the youths call them, are ankle monitors that must be charged in order to work and track them properly. Do you think a kid who's in trouble with the law can be held responsible to charge up the batteries on these devices? What a silly idea. Now, just to further highlight how out of control juvenile crime is here in D.C., 125 to 150 youths a day wear these GPS monitors under D.C. juvenile court supervision while facing charges. And in contrast, back in the mid-2000s, there was an average of just 40 a day. Additionally, one D.C. juvenile judge reported he estimates 4 out of 5 youths under court supervision will at some point wear one of these devices. Despite the mayor's office reporting a decrease in violent crime statistics, our nation's capital is not getting better. It's actually getting more dangerous. Judge Janine Pirro, now the U.S. Attorney of D.C., says it's time to clean house.
I just met with the president. We talked about crime in the nation's capital. We talked about fighting crime, and the president is very serious about making sure that as the prosecutor here, that we not only fight crime with a vengeance, but make sure that there are consequences. Make sure that we protect the victims and we make the criminals accountable.
This isn't about politics, it's about safety. It's about restoring law and order to the very city where our laws are made. President Trump is correct. If the radicals in charge won't protect Americans, perhaps he will. Reporting for LindellTV, I'm Allison Steinberg.
Oh man, thank you, Allison, for that. Please stay safe out there on the streets of D.C. In the meantime, coming up after the commercial break, we continue the coverage of the very important film set to premiere August 15th called Pardon Me. It's the Bevelyn Williams story, and it features our very own Silk. We talked to another star of the film. You probably recognize him from his other great work. Mr. Jason Mitchell joins us after this commercial break.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
The husband of Bevelyn Williams, the former political prisoner, wrote on X, quote, "I watched them put my wife in handcuffs. Her crime, standing for the voiceless. The government tried to bury her, but instead they made her story unforgettable. President Trump pardoned her. Now her story is a movie." And it is. It is the subject of the new film, Pardon Me. It tells the tale of the strong Bevelyn Williams, who was outside an abortion clinic peacefully protesting the murder of babies. And as a result, the unbelievably corrupt Southern District of New York Prosecutor's Office charged Williams with violating the FACE Act and sentencing her to 41 months in prison for interfering with lawful reproductive health care. And now that the film has been made, Bevelyn's story is hitting a new snag. No major theaters will play it at this time. Here's Bevelyn explaining why she thinks this is happening.
But I'm going to tell you what the difference is with this movie. Pardon Me destroys a narrative when it comes to the African American community and abortion. It exposes the FBI and the weaponization of the government. It exposes the agenda of the enemy to tear down a family and break a family up. And it also exposes the narrative of these young women that grow up in broken homes and end up at the abortion clinic.
Our next guest, Jason Mitchell, is one of the stars of the film, Pardon Me, and he's going to talk about the making of the film. But first, here's a very short clip of Jason Mitchell in the movie, Pardon Me. Watch.
Harrison, you said security, which you're the head of, had to intervene because people were blocked.
We're now joined by Jason Mitchell himself, and you might recognize Jason from another very highly acclaimed film, the biopic Straight Outta Compton, where he played Eazy-E. It's so good to meet you, Jason.
Glad to be here. It's good to meet you too. How are you?
Great. Tell us about the making of this film. I am one of those people who followed Bevelyn's story. I was I literally followed it every day. It's such a harrowing story of a woman who stands strong in her beliefs, and also the men around her who supported her. Tell us about the film and your inspiration in your role.
Wow. Well, I work with all different kinds of students, right? And one of the students I work with, her name is Gabby. She's wonderful, but she suffers from cerebral palsy. And I just kind of took a liking to her, right? So she calls me up one day and she's like, Jason, she's whispering to me, Jason, I'm on set right now and I think they might need you. Like, what do you mean? So then minutes later, I get a call from Columbus Short and he's like, yo, somebody dropped out of this film. We may need you to come. I think it'll be a great look for you. You're playing a lawyer. I'm like, okay, when do you need me to come? He's like, right now. I'm like, okay. So I grab every suit that I own. I go down there. I have my barber meet me there, and they're prepping me, as everything's being, put together, because I have to jump right into the movie, right? And I was like, man, I really wish that I could talk to Bevelyn Williams. And she walks in. And she starts just, downloading all this information onto me about how she feels and what it is. And I can feel her passion. And immediately, I had to soak that in and transfer that over on camera. And it turned out beautiful. It turned out beautiful. I was late into the film, but I had all the information I needed because she was right there with me.
That is incredible. I actually didn't know that aspect of the story. So you were brought in to the rescue on the fly, and you weren't aware of Miss Williams' story prior to this. That's amazing.
Correct. But I think that it's all God's hands. I have to give him the credit, but I've had the opportunity to bring some of these beautiful stories to life that help shape our country, and a lot of them are very controversial, and I feel like this is in that same vein. I've become sort of this activist, as somebody else would like to say. I've heard this from a couple of people now, but it wasn't something that was planned. It was just, all God's grace.
Yeah, and that's what I keep hearing about this film, honestly. Jason, I talked to Silk about it. I've talked to Bevelyn, and everyone has the same sentiment that you just shared, that God's hand is really on it. So I'll ask you, what do you think that the audience will take away from this film once they see it?
Obviously I'm not a woman, right? And it's easy to say your body, your choice, because we don't think about all the rest of the things that come along with it. But I think what was really interesting that Bevelyn told me was that nobody told her before she got an abortion how it would affect her mentally, and how that ended up putting her on a road to ultimately be in trouble with the law one way or another. I thought that was very interesting, because we're quick to say, yo, your body, your choice, you know, and I grew up in a single parent household, so I'm normally not the one that say have a child before you're ready, but I never got to see that perspective, and I never got to hear that, you know, that opinion of it. And I thought that was very interesting. You know, I thought that was something that the world should take into consideration when talking about abortion. So yeah, I hope they take that from you.
Yeah, I was, Silk and I were talking about it a little bit because, you know, she's with our network, LindellTV. And
Right.
she was talking about the film, and I haven't gotten to see it yet. I can't wait till I can. And hopefully we can arrange a screening in the town that I'm in, because I think a lot of people here would really appreciate the film.
Yeah, we gotta make
But
that happen.
look, it's just a good story. You don't even have to
Yeah.
get to it will be moving for people, of course, but it's also just good storytelling. And it looks like it
And
to me from just the clips I've seen and the trailer, which the trailer is very moving, especially the moment where the FBI shows up at the door. It's just good
right.
storytelling.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you know, it's interesting, right? Because as a lawyer, you put your feelings aside and you put the facts together,
Mhm.
and then you build a story ultimately to crush whatever witness that hits that stand. So even though I came into it late, I had enough information to do exactly that, and it was pretty fun. And I didn't know anybody personally, so I got to dig in, you know, pretty good. It was actually kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. You know, if I wasn't an actor, I think I could see being a lawyer in my future for sure.
Well, hey, you never know. I did spend some time living in Hollywood, and I would tell you there were a lot of actors slash lawyers. In fact, it seems to be sort of a very symbiotic relationship there, right? And we could dive into
Absolutely.
that. It's the same with journalists, and I would say some of them don't stop their theatrics when they end up in the White House press corps or on CNN or whatever. So there you go. You never know, Jason. You
I
might have a
love it.
future as a lawyer.
I,
I wouldn't count it out
I
of the cards,
love
but
it.
you're definitely a fantastic actor. I've seen
Thank
quite a bit
you.
of your work in the past, especially Straight Outta Compton. I'm so glad
Thank
that
you.
God brought you to be a part of the film, and I can't wait till we can see it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason. Anything you'd like to leave us with?
Thank you for having me. Watch the movie any way possible. Go see it.
Go see the film, and you can also set up a screening. We want to make sure that our audience knows that. If you'd like to bring it to
Yes.
your hometown, you can email info@watchpartyme.com, info@watchpartyme.com to set up a screening in your local area. Thanks so much, Jason. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one. Bye.
And that's it for us in this noon hour of The Absolute Truth. Be sure to go to mypillow.com where you can use your promo code TRUTH and get lots of fabulous products. I'm about to put together a list of my favorites to share with you as we come to an end of the summer. And then we're also, let's be honest, we're already thinking about Christmas gifts. So I'm going to put together a list very soon for you of my favorites that, of course, when you use the promo code TRUTH, you get excellent discounts. You can also call the toll-free number 800, the 800 number you see at the bottom of your screen. And with that, DC Live is next with Kara Castronova after the break. See you later today.
And experience the difference.